Hey everybody, Lucas here, and in this video we're going to take a look at Microsoft OneNote and see how well it works as a tool for getting things done, or GTD for short. Microsoft OneNote is pretty popular. It's been around for a while, and it's especially popular among students. I know that I used it when I was a student, and a main reason for that is that it's free and it comes integrated with Microsoft Office, which is pre-installed on many students' computers as well. So definitely a throwback for me, but also for me a new way of using it, because I wasn't using GTD while I was a student. So it's going to be interesting to see how has OneNote evolved and how well does it suit this system in particular. So before we get started, it's good to get a bit of an understanding of how OneNote works, because at first sight it looks like your typical Office writing application like Microsoft Word, to be honest. You can format your text here, you can apply headings and other elements, but there's a key difference in that you're not operating on a document level here. You're actually operating on a notebook level. So as the name implies, OneNote really is designed as a note taker. Yet another reason why it's so popular among students. And we're going to take a look at a specific student application for it at the end as well. But for GTD purposes, that means we're going to have to use these different categories to make it work for our system. So if notebooks are the highest level, then within notebooks we have several sections. You can see these as chapters from a real book. And like a real book, there's also separate pages which you can create. So how does this work in a GTD context? So let's just take a look at it from the left-hand side first. You can see that the notebooks are ordered here. And as you can see, they are ordered by the relevance they have for the GTD system. So it always starts with the inbox. If you have something new to process, you can throw it in here. And in this case, we're not really making much of a distinction between the notebook level, the section level, or even the page level. They all just function as the inbox, and I don't really see the need for a separate inbox section or inbox page. You might want to do that if you have very separated lives, like your work life and your private life, but it's still the same you that's using the system, right? So I always opt for just one inbox, and you can just drop your inbox items in here, and there you go. It's dropped in there, and you can process it at a later time. So where do you process it into? Well, that's obviously where these notebooks come into play. So first we have the next actions level. This is probably one of the most important ones. And here what you can see is that we actually do make the distinction between the notebook level on the left, the section level in the tabs, but also when you expand it on the left side here. And these sections are separate contexts. So in other words, what can I do while I'm in this particular place or time or mode of operation, call it what you want. That's what a context is, right? So anything I can do from home, any calls I have to make on my laptop, whatever the context is, that's all very much a personal choice. The reason I've separated it like this, because it allows us to apply a third level of categorization within the context, which is to see what is the action here related to. And any action related to any item bundled under any section, in other words, a context, is going to allow you to know which project are you progressing on. It allows you to prioritize within a particular context. So you can see that every context has standalone actions because those exist as well. Not everything has to be a project. But there are also project-related ones. And in this case, we have a fictional project for building an IKEA table. And there is a separate page for that project within multiple contexts here, because it's a project with multiple actions within multiple contexts. So what are those actions and how does it work on the project level view? That's what we can see from the project's notebook. So in this case, what we're doing is use the sections to define a particular project. And within that project, we operate the pages to differentiate between different phases of the project. Because not every project has items that you can just do at will. Many of them will be sequential. You got to take action A first before you can get to action B. Or you have a cluster of tasks. And this is how you can actually cluster those tasks together into their own phases while keeping the overview over the project. So in this case, if we want to build an IKEA table, first we got to prepare. And in our case, let's imagine that we do not have a big enough car to actually move the table from IKEA to our home. So what we got to do, we have two options here, two actions we can take. Number one is to ask our friend Linda if we can borrow her car. She's got a big minivan. Or we can explore the rental car options in our area, so we can maybe rent a van for just a day to move stuff around. In the second phase, we are assuming that we've completed phase one, so we've got the transportation. Now we have to actually do the transportation. So what does that mean? We got to pick up our new table from IKEA, and we got to donate the old table to a second-hand store that we're replacing it with. Lastly, once we've done that, we can build our new IKEA table at home, and once we're finished with that, we can consider the project complete. So as you can see, these are all different actions in different phases and in different contexts as well. And now it starts to hopefully make more sense why we've divided it inside of the next actions section here, as we have with several pages, separate pages within these sections. So if we assume that the first phase is to ask our friend Linda, well, we can call her and see if she has her car available. So let's imagine that we've done that and that the answer is actually yes. In that case, we can mark this item complete, but we can also remove this particular item because it's no longer needed, right? So we just remove it as such. What we can also do now is mark this complete in the project view and move on to the second phase. So what we can do here is actually process these actions now and put them in their right place, in the right context. Where do we put both of these? Well, these are actually both errands in this particular view. So we can just paste it here, and now we have the transportation and we know what to do when we're on the road. So this is how you can really manage your projects and tasks associated with those projects, both on the project level as well as on the next action ground level. Now, granted, this is not pretty. It's not synced, and it's nowhere near as good as any task manager could do. But OneNote is not a task manager, right? It's a note taker. And usually those two are a bit at war when it comes to your personal productivity system. You have to usually either go for one or the other and make sacrifices in one of the two areas. Well, in this case, it's pretty clear that OneNote is not the strongest when it comes to task management. You have to do a lot of manual work to keep this relevant, up to date, and timely. So that's a choice to make. If you like OneNote a lot, you could do it. Personally, I'm not a big fan, but it does work. So why not? It's free. And like I said, for many students, it's a popular app to use. So this is how you can do it. Tickler file is probably even weaker in this case because as a note taker, there is no inbuilt reminder function from what I found. Now, I know that you can connect OneNote to other apps in several ways with integrations, but I've chosen not to go too deeply into that for the sake of simplicity. So what you're going to need to do here is look at this tickler file every day, just like you would with a manual paper tickler file, right? In that system that David Allen describes in his book, Getting Things Done, he mentions a real-life cabinet with several dates and other times marked in the future that you just scroll through and you just know which date is today. So if any of these dates match the day of today, you know that you have to take care of something that you reminded yourself about in the current time as you set it up in the past. So the tickler file has its own section here, and again, no distinction between the section level, the notebook level, or the page level. It's just one thing on its own. When it comes to items you're waiting for from other people, we're mostly just going into the section level, but not a level deeper here. So we can separate different people by naming them in their own sections and then put in their item that we're waiting for as such. And that's pretty straightforward, right? Once it's done, once you've received it, you can remove it, etc. Pretty similar setup for agendas. As you notice, I had the talking points under waiting for. That was by accident because they're so similar. So talking points actually obviously go into the agenda section, but the setup is exactly the same. Someday maybe. You can get pretty creative here. Obviously, this is a reference of sorts. It's basically a collection of ideas, thoughts, actions, projects, whatever you might want to take care of at a later time in the future. And you can really use OneNote's great segmentation for notes here, and you can see how powerful it is. So you can collect ideas, books to read, and maybe categorize them by a topic here under the page level, songs to listen to by genre, whatever it is that's relevant to your life. Organizing your someday maybe list is definitely very, very easy to do with OneNote. We move on to goals. So any particular goals that might be related to projects or might not be, but either way you can define them here. So in this case, I've chosen to also use sections for separate goals, but some goals might have particular sub goals. Maybe you're trying to lose weight. That's a major goal that maybe takes a year to get to your desired weight, but it includes projects like finding a gym, purchasing the right gear, making a training program, a nutrition program, all that, right? So you can define those sub goals here. And you know, OneNote is part of the Microsoft Office family. So you can get creative here in how you want to visualize and measure these goals. So you can create diagrams, tables, and collect all kinds of relevant data and insert it here because there's not a lot of limitations compared to Microsoft Word when it comes to markup. So make use of that when you design your own goals. Your vision and your purpose, I usually gloss over these pretty quickly when I review systems because they're just a matter of defining them once and then regularly reviewing and maybe redefining them from time to time. But as I said, it's a note taker, so you can perfectly organize these sections as notes within their separate notebook and you know, look at them when you need to. Now we get to probably the strongest area for OneNote, which is obviously the reference section of GTD. So as I mentioned, OneNote is quite popular among students. So I took a use case example for students when it comes to using the reference file with OneNote. And in this case, what we're imagining is a student that has two particular subjects they're following in this semester, one being statistics and the other being psychology. So you can divide subjects into several sections and then separate the particular class notes, you know, you're attending classes during a semester, into separate pages. You can also maybe add a book summary of any study material that's relevant to this particular subject. So when you're studying for an exam, you can easily reference them through the reference file. And if it's not detailed enough, well, go ahead and create separate notebooks per subject, right? Nobody's stopping you, and you know, you can just create these notebooks and add them here and move them around so that they don't interfere with the main GTD system. But just to summarize, for reference, OneNote really stands out. That's what it's designed to do when it comes to a task manager approach, moving items, processing them from inbox to next actions. It's really a matter of manually copy pasting things, defining them, keeping them up, using the to-do tag, and then marking it off. During your weekly review, you want to probably regularly clean the next actions that were completed just by deleting them. Could put them in a separate archive notebook. That's all a personal choice. But overall, it's pretty simple to set up. Is it simple to use? I'm not sure, because task management really is a big one for me. And as you've seen, you really do have to do a lot of manual work to manage your projects and actions. For reference though, that's where it really stands out to me. So try it out. It's free to use. If you're a student, you're probably already using it. So see whether you can make some alterations to how you're using it to fit within the GTD spirit, if that's something you're interested in. So if you have any questions, suggestions, comments, leave them down below. I'll be happy to read through them and answer them to make your GTD system in OneNote work for you. Subscribe if you're interested in more content like this. I'm going to be reviewing more tools. I've already reviewed many. So if you want to see more of that, make sure you like and subscribe. Thank you for watching and see you in the next video.